The gold in Ghana isn't just abundant, it's overwhelming. Entire rivers once ran heavy with it, hillsides still shed it after rain, and in certain parts of the country, the ground itself seems to glitter with the residue of something far older and far more powerful than any modern mine. What makes this place so unusual isn't just how much gold there is, it's how completely it has shaped everything built on top of it. Ghana has produced an estimated 3,500 to 5,000 tons of gold over the course of its history, making it one of the most prolific gold-producing regions on Earth. A large portion of this comes from modern mining, with roughly 2,500 to 3,000 tons extracted since 1990 alone, while earlier production during the colonial era and trans-Saharan trade likely contributed another 1,000 to 2,000 tons. At current prices of around 6,700 Australian dollars per ounce, equivalent to roughly 215 million Australian dollars per tonne, this places the total historical value of Ghana's gold production at approximately 750 billion to over 1 trillion Australian dollars. And that figure is conservative, as it does not account for undocumented artisanal mining, smuggled gold, or material lost to history. Even today, Ghana continues to produce around 120 to 150 tonnes of gold per year, adding tens of billions more annually, highlighting that the underlying geological system responsible for this immense wealth is not only vast, but still actively contributing to global gold supply. For centuries, long before Europeans arrived on the coast, this region was already known across continents for a single reason. Traders crossed the Sahara, not for spices or silk, but for gold. Empires rose here not on agriculture or conquest, but on access to something buried deep within ancient rock. And even today, in ceremonies and traditions, that same metal is worn not as decoration, but as a direct expression of authority, ancestry, and power. What most people don't realise is that this isn't coincidence. The cultural weight of gold in Ghana isn't separate from the land, it's a direct consequence of it. Because beneath the forests and towns lies one of the most extraordinary geological setups on Earth. A configuration of rock, pressure, heat, and time that has been quietly concentrating gold for over 2 billion years. And almost no one outside of geology circles truly understands just how extreme that process has been. To understand why Ghana is so gold rich, you have to go back to a time when the Earth itself was fundamentally different. Over 2 billion years ago, the region that would become West Africa was not stable land, but a chaotic environment of volcanic arcs and oceanic crust. These were zones where molten rock pushed upward, where underwater volcanoes built thick piles of basalt and sediment, and where the early crust of the planet was still assembling itself. These ancient volcanic and sedimentary sequences would eventually become what geologists now call the Birimian group. Today, they form the backbone of Ghana's gold belts, but at the time they were just layers of unstable crust, sitting in a dynamic, evolving system. Then everything changed. As these volcanic arcs collided and compressed, they triggered one of the most important processes in gold formation, crustal deformation. The rocks didn't just fold, they fractured, sheared, and broke apart under immense pressure. Deep within these zones, temperatures rose, fluids began to circulate, and something critical happened. Gold, which had been dispersed in tiny, almost invisible amounts throughout the crust, began to mobilize. Hot, chemically active fluids moved through these fractures, dissolving and transporting gold along with other elements like arsenic, sulfur, and silica. And when conditions changed, when pressure dropped or temperature shifted, the gold came out of solution and was deposited. Not randomly, but in very specific places. These were the beginnings of Ghana's gold systems. Quartz veins filled fractures. Sulfide minerals like arsenopyrite and pyrite formed alongside them. And within these structures, gold accumulated, sometimes finely disseminated, sometimes in concentrated chutes that would later become incredibly rich ore zones. What makes Ghana exceptional is not just that this happened, but that it happened repeatedly. The region didn't experience a single mineralizing event. It underwent multiple phases of deformation and fluid movement, each one reworking and upgrading the existing gold. Early deposits were broken apart and reconcentrated. New structures formed, intersecting older ones and creating zones where gold could accumulate even more intensely. Over time, this created enormous continuous belts of mineralization. The most famous of these runs through what is now southern Ghana, forming part of a broader system known as the Ashanti Belt. This isn't a small, isolated deposit, it's a region-scale feature, stretching for hundreds of kilometers, hosting some of the richest gold deposits ever discovered. And crucially, these deposits didn't stay buried. Ghana sits within the West African Craton, a block of crust that has remained relatively stable for hundreds of millions of years. Unlike more active regions, where mountain building and tectonics continually reshape the landscape, this area has been slowly worn down by erosion over immense timescales. That erosion is key. Because as the surface was stripped away, the gold systems that formed deep underground were gradually exposed. What had once been kilometers below the surface became accessible. Quartz veins appeared at outcrop, sulfide-rich zones weathered and broke down, and as they did, they released their gold. In tropical environments like Ghana, this process is especially intense. High rainfall, heat, and chemical weathering attack the rock aggressively. Sulfide minerals oxidize, breaking apart and leaving behind iron-rich residues. The gold, which doesn't react in the same way, is freed. Once liberated, it doesn't stay in place. Rain and surface water transport it downhill into streams and rivers. There it becomes concentrated again, forming alluvial deposits. Over time, these processes can produce surprisingly rich accumulations of gold, sometimes in the form of fine particles, sometimes as nuggets. This is why, historically, gold in Ghana wasn't confined to deep mines. It was in riverbeds, floodplains, and shallow soils. It could be collected, panned, and traded, and it became part of everyday life, not because people understood the geology, but because the geology made it unavoidable. And this is where the story shifts from rock to culture. Long before colonial powers arrived, societies in this region had already built complex systems around gold. Among the most influential was the Ashanti Empire, which rose to prominence in part because of its control over gold resources. Gold wasn't just wealth, it was structure. It was used in trade across vast distances, moving north through the trans-Saharan networks and eventually reaching Europe and the Middle East. It was measured with intricate weights, stored as dust, and regulated carefully. Ownership and use were tied to authority. Certain forms of gold were reserved for rulers, reinforcing social hierarchies that were deeply connected to the land itself. Even today, that connection is still visible. In traditional ceremonies, chiefs wear large amounts of gold jewellery, not as decoration but as a statement of legitimacy. Each piece carries meaning, often linked to lineage, status, or historical events. The gold itself is a physical link between the present and the deep geological past, a material that has travelled from ancient crustal processes into human identity. What's remarkable is how direct that link is. In many parts of the world, mineral wealth exists, but it remains hidden, locked underground, extracted only through modern technology. In Ghana, the combination of ancient geological formation, repeated mineralization, long-term stability, and intense weathering has brought that wealth to the surface. It has made gold visible. And when something as valuable as gold becomes visible, accessible, and abundant, it doesn't stay confined to the ground. It reshapes economies, trade routes, power structures, and belief systems. That's why Ghana became historically known as the Gold Coast. Not because it had gold somewhere inland, but because gold defined a region so completely that it became its identity in the eyes of the world. Even today, Ghana remains one of the largest gold producers globally. Modern mining operations target the same structures that formed billions of years ago: deep-seated shear zones, quartz veins, and sulfide-rich bodies that continue to yield significant amounts of gold. But alongside that industrial scale, artisanal mining still exists. People still work river sediments, still pan for gold, still engage directly with the material in ways that echo practices from centuries ago. Because the geological conditions that created Ghana's gold haven't gone away. They're still there, locked into the rock, slowly being revealed by ongoing processes of weathering and erosion. And that's the real reason Ghana is so gold rich. It's not just that it formed gold. Many places did. It's that every part of the system aligned perfectly. The right kind of ancient crust, the right tectonic history, multiple phases of mineralization, long-term stability, intense tropical weathering, and continuous erosion. Each step built on the last, and the result is a landscape where gold is not rare, not hidden and not distant, but woven into the surface itself. A place where the deep history of the Earth is constantly intersecting with human history, shaping it in ways that are still visible today. In Ghana, gold isn't just a resource. It's the end product of a 2 billion year process that never really stopped, and a demonstration that sometimes the most powerful forces shaping human societies are the ones buried deepest beneath our feet. I hope you found this as interesting as I did, and as always, thanks for watching. Before I end this video, I'd like to give a big shout out to my Patreon and YouTube members. Thank you so much to everyone that helps to support this channel.